Hello everyone, and welcome to theCUBE. I'm Christophe, Bertrand, Principal Analyst here at theCUBE, and this is our AWS Marketplace Series, and we are joined today by two great speakers from Terra Security, Shahar Peled, founder and CEO, and Anna Sarnek, who is the VP of Business and Strategy. Welcome to theCUBE, welcome to our series.
Thank you, very good to be here.
Great, so we're going to talk about security, obviously. We're going to talk about what's going on in this crazy world we live in, where cyber attackers are now leveraging AI, which means that the way you respond, the way you equip yourself and your organization to be able to become cyber resilient is changing. And that's where Terra Security comes in. We're going to talk about penetration testing. We'll have, stay tuned, a little demo too, which I think you love. You have to forget the old ways. And Shahar, before we get into that, too much detail, tell us about Terra Security. You are the founder and the CEO, so what drove you to build this business?
Yeah, so Terra Security is an agentic offensive security solution. Offensive security is the umbrella of pen testing, red teaming, ethical hacking, practically mimicking adversaries. What can adversaries do today? And it is an art and science, actually, that allows us to move away from theoretical findings to what actually happens today. This is something that was done for decades, but it was done by service organizations in a manual way, in a periodic basis, usually once a year, once a quarter, on a very scoped part of the attack surface. But what led us to found Terra is that we knew that things are going to change even before, ChatGPT was widely adopted as the first widely adopted AI model. We saw two things. One is that it is going to get wild out there from our good guys adoption, whether it's developers, security, or marketing, sales, or anyone's adoption with AI, and giving it access to things that usually will be much more cautious and especially done by professionals who don't have cybersecurity knowledge. But on the other hand, the adoption of AI by adversaries. So these two things coming together gets to a point that everything around cybersecurity, the managers on a periodic basis or in the old ways, will be out of date very, very soon. Because we believe now, with everything that's going on in AI adversaries and new AI attacks, you basically have to run adversarial operations, so offensive security, all the time across the entire attack surface, because otherwise adversaries are just going to get to it before you can. So we have to move from reactive to proactive, from defensive to offensive, and beat adversaries in their game.
Right, absolutely, and obviously you have to have the ability to do that, and leveraging AI and leveraging technology to do so is necessary, because unfortunately you're not going to be able to triple your cybersecurity team overnight, and actually you probably won't, which is why...
Even if you triple manual work, it's not even close to what adversaries can do: pace, scope, scale.
Exactly, and just changing the operations. It's the people, it's the processes. I mean, we're looking at continuous testing. That's very different from periodical testing, and it changes everything. So I'd like to double click on the partnership with AWS. And Anna, I know you've spent a lot of time on this topic. Tell us about, first of all, your market generally, and also how you approach the AWS Marketplace.
Yeah, our partnership with AWS is really special, especially given how young the company is. We are the first company to be certified in AWS security competency under continuous autonomous validation for the AppSec category. And that was really unique to us because it's a category use case that was created throughout our conversation and a close work that we've done with Amazon. We've worked on refining how we can use Bedrock and the foundational infrastructure to power our solution for that secure deployment and seamless deployment. So in our space, to your point, there is a lot of regulatory pressure to make sure that assets are secure within the space, and especially in the highly regulated spaces and financial services or healthcare, there is a lot of pressure coming from SEC to make sure that there is attestation on all of the web app assets that historically are not only very complicated, but also change very quickly, right? The AI, it's not even just adversaries using AI for faster attacks and wider scope of attacks, but it's also how quickly we're now developing the technology, and we need to keep up with the IT side on security. So we're seeing a lot of customers that are AWS customers that are coming to us. not only because we're on Marketplace, which helps the deployment and the procurement cycle, but also the fact that we have validation from AWS through the security competency, through the AI competency, where they have this confidence that because we're 100% on Bedrock, there's higher security. Because AWS is working with us, we're in the trusted ecosystem. So all of those large customers in the enterprise space are looking to us to partner and help understand how do they move into leveraging offensive security to build that continuous assurance program that's truly grounded in security, and for the first time really bridged both sides of the IT and the security space, because we end up helping by sitting in the middle to create that continuous conversation in application security space.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the things that at theCUBE we have researched, and certainly we understand that it's a new world. IT, security, cloud, ops, everybody has to work together. So the people and the process is changing, and of course now we're going to talk about the technology component. So I'd like to double click maybe on the product or the solution a little bit more. So Shahar, before we get into looking under the hood a little bit, tell us about the high-level features and maybe the design point. What did you have in mind when you embarked on this journey and built Terra Security and built the solution? What did you want to achieve, and maybe give us a high-level view of the feature functions?
Yeah, so we wanted to allow organizations of all sizes, but started from large enterprise to enable offensive security to be one of the most effective security capabilities running continuously across their security program, not as an adjacent project that happens on a periodic basis. The only way to do it, in our belief, is running with AI agents. So we train a swarm of hundreds of AI agents that are trained to do everything in the offensive security cycle, from collecting and understanding business context, to understand the profile of the target, how sensitive it is, what business impact could happen if this has been compromised. Then to analyze the technological attack surface, whether it's from the application layer, from the network layer, from the mobile or cloud layers, or from the AI layer, right? Whether it's agentic AI or copilot or chatbots, these are new attack surfaces that most organizations don't yet know how to secure. And if you secure it from the build mode, it doesn't really mean that it's going to be secured when it actually runs in production environments. So we train them how to think and act like ethical hackers. So they analyze the attack surface. They generate hypotheses or test cases of what can adversaries do. These are potential vulnerabilities. Why potential? Because we haven't yet validated them. So then the agents actually go ahead and attack those. They run a penetration testing and red teaming across every vector of attack to validate the exploitability. Once they have validated it, they don't stop there. They will go ahead and generate a fix. So it will help organizations triage, work on a fix, and once fixed, retest to make sure it's been fixed, and then, of course, create the report and do it simultaneously. So every time the attack surface changes, whether it's through something the organization has changed, through code or deployments or anything, or maybe there is a new novel AI attack, the agents will analyze the change and generate those test cases again, so it runs continuously and you always remain secure and not just in a point in time. This is how we've architectured it, and this is how we run it today on many enterprise environments.
Absolutely. So if they try the door, you have all the windows covered, and you're going to keep trying, and then you're going to keep defending or attacking back, which is very, very interesting. I like also the fact that there's a lot of measurement and going on here to improve, because obviously you have to make changes over time to adjust and adapt, because your attackers are adapting. So let's take a look at the solution. We have a little demo here. So Shahar, I'd like for you to take us through a high-level view. It's going to be quick, but just to give us a taste for what you can do with Terra Security.
Of course, more than happy to do so. So again, it's high level. We'll see some dashboards here, but I don't want us to waste time on dashboards. It's in a CISO level or compliance level or auditor or security engineers. Across the entire portfolio of attacks or of targets, whether it's applications, networks, AI layers, mobile, cloud. But let's create a new test, basically. Yes, of course, we can do it programmatically with an API, but for a single attack or a single test, we can just create a target. This one is going to be a web application with a copilot. So we'll give it the target itself. give it a name, maybe give some extra domains or exclude subdomains, and ask the agents to go and run some reconnaissance. Let's see if there is something else connected to it. We are going to choose production environments because we want to run where adversaries run, and we have a human-in-the-loop mechanism and guardrails to make sure we can do it safely, but at scale. This is going to be a white box testing, so we can connect source code and then give the agents authentication opportunities, right? So we'll give them credentials of users and or admins or any other role, and they can use any authentication mechanism from the simplest ones of username and password to more complex ones. Anything comes to mind, the agents could go ahead and do and verify that it actually works, so they can authenticate completely and not just run a black box testing, because we need to be right 100% of the times, where adversaries only have to be right once, and that's it. We have a test running. What's going to happen from now is the agents have done this like context generation and context collection, so the better profile of the target. What's the purpose of the target? Who uses it? For what use cases? What kind of technologies are here? Compliance, regulation, anything that is relevant. And come to the guardrails and controls, which is where our customers can configure what agents can do autonomously on production environments, what they can do, but they need a human approval, and what they can't do whatsoever. And if they have any unique use cases or instructions, we can take those as well because they support the business context. But everything that happens from here is fully transparent. Yes, we can dive deeper into the activity and the testing and the assets and the mapping and the code graphs, but what most organizations want to see is the results. So we can go and be transparent, and we can do it in a different demo, but here we can see the output. Verified exploitability findings with everything that happened behind the scenes, the proof of concept of how the agents have done it with the evidence and proof, and an option to just reproduce it in a single click. So engineers or security engineers who are going to fix it can see and understand both the exploitability but also the business impact. And here we can see the mitigation plan. Whether it's a ticket that's been opened or a fixed PR in the organization's Git, they have to review and merge it. It's been fixed, but everything is implemented with that business impact. But this is, of course, a story of a single target. Agents know that it runs cross company. So every time there is a new vulnerability, they'll ask themselves, can I now chain it with another vulnerability that exists, no matter how severe it is, to get more business impact? And yes, sometimes people need reports, so all you have to do is just click a button and get a formal pen test report. But when we need more view, we can go to the findings, just filter it based on different business units, different environments, different companies within the company, or different tenants, or different severity or statuses, and manage everything from Terra. We also are an API first company, so we don't require people to log into the UI. You can just manage vulnerabilities where you run today in your environment. But now the output is always a true positive, because we verify exploitability, not just from what Terra finds, but also from output of other security tools that provide theoretical vulnerabilities. We can go ahead and verify those and work with the security teams to verify, fix, retest, report, repeat.
Exactly. So that, and obviously there's a lot of agentic AI involved here, which means a little more autonomy, but it doesn't mean that the human is not still in the loop. I think you made a very strong point about this. Don't think that this is on autopilot for everything. Of course, some of the tasks are being delegated to agents, and that's how you get to scale and really be in a position to test continuously. Look, love the demo. I think definitely this is a great solution. But I'd like to maybe put this in the context of what it looks like in a customer environment now with some examples. And Anna, I'd love to get your take on that, your experience. I know you have some very interesting stories to tell us. So tell us about some customers you have, and also maybe more broadly, who's a good customer for you potentially. We have many viewers today looking at this thinking, well, I probably need to be doing this. So tell us more. Tell us about the experience with Terra Security.
Yeah, before the specific customer examples, I want to highlight a couple of key things that I think is really unique about our solution. We talked about the business context. We talked about the feedback loop to remediation. So from my experience, I have this frustration point where we keep talking about cyber risk as a vertical pillar, even though it's a horizontal overlay of all of the business risks within an enterprise, right? So I think what's unique is traditionally in the security space, I find that we talk about security and remediation in a circular feedback loop. The way that I see Terra fitting into an enterprise is if you draw an infinity symbol, we sit at the middle, right? Where on the right-hand loop, you have this security using offensive mechanisms to finding the vulnerability, understanding whether it's reachable, whether it actually has an impact into your organization. And through that feedback loop of remediation and retest, you punt it over to the IT side, to the business side. And throughout that, it's not just saying that something is a risk, right? We're saying, why is it a risk to the business? Which is critical because today, a lot of businesses, their assets that generate money, it's really data. Right. So giving them the understanding of this is a problem because as an e-commerce provider, your users can't fulfill an order. Or as a delivery distributor, you can not route your deliveries in the most efficient way. That helps that non-IT business user to now understand what type of financial loss they would experience across their business, right? And I just want to highlight that because when customers talk to us, and we have several customers in, for example, high-tech space, where they want to maintain their product uptick and product security so that their customers' data is not vulnerable, or healthcare, where it's both wanting to keep the data and a customer PII secure, but also making sure that their services are upticking. And same thing with the financial services. There is that part of wanting to stay safe to make sure that they're perceived safe, but also there is that aspect of making sure that the business understands the financial loss impact, right? So one of our best customer speakers from the healthcare space, he comes from the pen testing world, for example. So he can give you the both sides of this is how it's making my job easier, more efficient by saying that leveraging Terra and reducing the noise from having to review thousands of signals to focusing on the top 10 or top couple of dozen, to be able to validate what the paths were taken, sometimes redirect the agents, but for the most part, validate and check off to make sure that everything was done correctly. That means that instead of focusing on one application for days, maybe weeks, now he can focus on several applications. His team can focus on the entire web application attack surface. So there is that ROI on the security team side, but then the fact that now he can communicate at the board level to the rest of the organization or the executive level to the rest of the organization to say, hey, we really need to focus on this DevOps people because otherwise we're going to have a financial loss. It creates the productivity that has been missing in security, right? And we start to reduce that frustration. So I said before that for us, the ideal customers from more, I think the urgency level are coming from the highly regulated space, the high-tech space like e-commerce, IT. They tend to be very IT forward, so they're also coming to us. But really, we end up being that feedback loop across any organization that is deploying web applications, both internal and external. So I hope that wasn't too much of an elongated explanation, but.
This
I actually have a very short example from
yeah.
really a few weeks ago. I think we'll give you in 20 seconds why this is so valuable for organizations. We work with a very known financial organization that works with Terra in production environments. And there was an engineer who pushed a new piece of code to production, nothing meaningful. He didn't have a specific critical vulnerability in it. But the agent picked up, and because they understand the attack surface and the business context, they managed to take this very new and small piece of code and chain it with a few other small vulnerabilities that on their own, they're meaningless. But together chained into what we call an RCE, remote code execution, it is a critical vulnerability that if this would have been caught by an adversary, that's existential for some businesses. And this would not have been able to be caught by a point in time or manual tester. This is the value, but the risk now, AI adversaries could have actually catch it. And this is something that wasn't possible a year or two ago.
Well, I mean, and what a great way of concluding this discussion. I think that's a great example. And really, again, I think the message here is that the world has changed. Cyber resiliency, cybersecurity, IT, the business, it's all together now, fighting for survival, but preparedness is everything, and I think clearly having Terra Security in your quiver as one of the weapons to protect the business and move forward and improve the resiliency of the operation is critical. So Anna and Shahar, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really great to discover this great solution from Terra Security. Again, the first AWS partner to achieve, let me get this right, security competency for autonomous security validation. Needs to be repeated.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And to our viewers, thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Christophe, Bertrand, Principal Analyst at theCUBE.